Hi, you guys. This is Mrs. Bolin with your notes for 5.3 graphing linear inequalities. This one's kind of fun because we're going to be doing some shading. Spoiler alert. So look at question number 1 on the warm-up. Says describe and correct the error. X equals -4y. The slope would be -4. Well, what's the problem with those? The X and the Y are in the wrong places. Right? In order for this to be in slope-intercept form, for us to be able to look at it and get the slope, we would need to divide, that's super tiny, divide by -4 on both sides. So we would get y is equal to, and I'm going to write this as a fraction, like if there's 1x there, it's like having a little 1 on top. So I'm going to write it as -1/4 x. And then they're correct, the y-intercept is 0. I could write a plus 0. But -4 wouldn't be the slope. The slope would be -1/4. Because remember, it's the value that's stuck to the x when the y is by itself, the coefficient of x when y is by itself. Okay, question number 2, we're going to graph this one. This one's kind of tricky, you guys. Remember, if there's no number in front of the x, we have 1x. And if I write that as a fraction, it's 1/1. If I have nothing at the end there, I could write a plus 0. So I'm going to start at 0, and then I'm going to go down 1/1 because the slope is negative. You could also go up 1 to the left 1 to get some more points if you wanted to. Remember that when we draw a line, we want to go all the way through the graph that we have to give the best picture of what's actually happening. Okay, this one is not written in slope-intercept form. So you have two choices. You could subtract the 3x to the other side, and then it would be in slope-intercept form. The y would be by itself. Or we could graph using intercepts. Remember, if I want to find x, I would put a 0 in for y, which makes the y go away. And so I get 3x equals -3. Oops, sorry, you guys. It's hard to talk and write at the same time. So x equals -1. So I'm going to put that on there. X equals -1. And then look what happens when I put 0 for x. We just get y equals -3. So that one we didn't even have to do any work on. And we just get to connect the dots. Pretend like that's a straight line that goes through both of those points. All right, question number 4 says, is it linear or nonlinear? Well, remember, if we have an exponent on the variable that is anything other than 1, it is nonlinear. If the exponent was on the 6, no problem. But when the exponent is on the variable, not linear. All right, so for today, we are going to be graphing linear equalities. And we are also going to be checking to see if certain values are a solution of that inequality. So I'm going to skip the notes for today. You guys can go back and use that later just to help you understand if the way that I say it doesn't make sense. But I think it'll help to actually start doing some problems. And you guys can see what in the world we're talking about. Okay, so this one says, tell whether the ordered pair is a solution of the inequality. We did this before with just x's. Now we're going to be plugging in an x and a y. And remember how I told you, like, stop where you get to that semicolon. This is what we're plugging into. And then this is related to it. That's the x, that's the y, and that's what I'm plugging in. And I just want to see, is it true or not? A solution is any point that makes the inequality true. So I'm going to go 2, and then remember when they're touching, that means times. So 2 times -1 plus the y is 9 is less than -3. So I've got -2 plus 9 is smaller than -3. So 7 is smaller than -3. Is that true? No, if I was an alligator, I'd be eating those 7 cookies, not the -3 cookies. Okay, so this is not a solution. Not a solution. Okay, or you could just put no. No, this is not a solution. All right, question number 2, we're going to do the same thing. Now we're going to plug in the point 0, 0. So we're going to plug in a 0. Remember, this is x, this is y. So the x goes right there, the y goes right there, and we're plugging in the value 0. So I'm going to go 0 is greater than or equal to -4 times 0 plus 3. So 0 is greater than or equal to, that part just goes away, right? It's kind of like the cover-up method. When we plug in 0, that whole part of it cancels out because if I'm just adding 0 to 3, it doesn't change the 3 at all. And so is 3 smaller than 0? No. Again, this alligator's eating the wrong thing. It should be eating the 3 cookies instead of no cookies. So no, That is not a solution. Okay, question number 3 says graph the inequality in a coordinate plane. Okay, so we're going to start by graphing the line. But here's something that I skipped over a little bit. If it is, remember we were doing open circle, closed circle when we're just on a number line? Well, if we have 2 variables, then instead of just like a dot, we're going to have a line as our barrier. Okay, so if there's no equal sign, we're going to put a dotted line, or dashed line, dotted line, which shows that all of the things that go up to the line, but not including it. Okay, same thing, remember when we did closed circle, if it had the equal to, we're going to make a solid line if it has the equal to on it. Okay, so looking at this one, I know what kind of line am I going to make. This says dashed, I call it dotted, but same thing. All right, so y is greater than 4. I know that there's no x here, so there's not going to be any kind of slope to it. It's just going to be a flat line, and it's going to cross through at 4. Well, I'm going to put a dotted line. Okay, so that's my boundary. Well, can you think of some y values that are bigger than 4? Maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. All of those would be values bigger than 4 would shade up from the line. Now, I'm kind of at the top of my graph, so there's not really a lot of room to shade. Usually you would shade within that box as far as it goes to the boundaries of that. But I'll show you on the next one, okay? So that one was easy because it was only one direction, right? Okay, question number 4. Now we have a normal, like diagonal-ish line. It's a word, I promise. So remember, this is where I begin. And then my m would be 1x, so 1 over 1. So I'm going to begin at positive 1, and then I'm going to go up 1 over 1. And I need to think about how I'm going to connect these dots. Okay, well, it has the equal to underneath, so that tells me I'm going to make a solid line. So I'm going to use a solid line to connect the dots, okay? And then we look here and we see that y is less than that value. Okay, so if y is less than, think about, here's the y-axis. What are all the values of y that are less than the line? They would be going down like this. Okay, so these are all the values less than the value that the equation would give us. All right, question number 5. We're going to graph this one, and since it's not in slope-intercept form, we're going to graph this one with intercept. So cover-up method, what does x equal? You're going to kind of ignore the greater than thingy for a little while. We're just going to say x equals -2. And then if I cover up the x, I'm going to go y equals -2. We're going to put those 2 dots on there, -2, -2. It does have the equal to, so it includes all the values on the line as possible solutions. So I'm going to connect the dots. And then this one, because it has x and y over here, we can't just go less than shade down, greater than shade up. We can only do that when the y is by itself. So what we can do is plug in the easiest point we know how. So I could just plug in 0, 0. So 0 plus 0 is 0. Is that greater than -2? Yeah, it is. It doesn't seem like 0 would be greater than much, but it's greater than every negative number there is. And so I know that the point 0, 0 is a solution. So that has to be included in the way that I shade. So if it is a solution, then that means I have to shade that direction. So all of these values, if you had a crayon, you could just color in that whole part. See, like this. That's what it should look like. I'm a little bit limited by my marker here because I don't want to use up all my ink. All right, question number 6. We'll try this one. This is another cover-up one. So if I get -2x equals 6 and I divide by -2, then I get x equals -3. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to say 3x equals 6, divide by 3. Oh, sorry, y. Sorry, you guys. So y equals 2. So I'm going to graph those points. X equals -3. Y equals 2. And then look, think about what kind of line we're going to use. Look back up here. Are we going to use a dashed line or a solid line? So you think about it. So good, we're gonna use a dashed or a dotted line. So I'm gonna connect those dots, boop, boop, pretend like that was a line that actually went through there. And then now, because X and Y are both on the side, we're just gonna plug in some zeros and see if it works. So I'm gonna say 2 times 0 is 0, 3 times 0 is 0. Is 0 smaller than 6? Yes, that does work. So I know 0, 0 is included in my solution. So if this is part of the solution, that means I need to shade in the direction that would include that point 0, 0. Okay, question number 7. This one says, write the inequality shown in the graph and then give an example of a solution. Okay, well, I'm going to give an example of a solution first. I'm just going to pick a point right there. I'm going to say, okay, that point is -2, -2. There are an infinite number of examples of solutions, okay? It's easier if you pick one that's on the picture, just because you kind of have a visual idea of where the solutions are, but there's a lot of different answers that would work. Like maybe -1 million, -1 million would probably work. Anything negative would work, right? Okay, so we're gonna write an inequality. So I'm gonna say y, and then is it greater than or less than? So I'm shading down from the line, so I know it's going to be a less than. The line is solid, so I know it's going to have the equal to. This line is going down, right? So down by 2 over by 1, x, and then the y-intercept was 0. So the best way to write this would be y is less than or equal to -2x. Okay, we don't have to write the divide by 1. We don't have to write the plus 0. So that would be the most simplified version of that. Okay, question number 8 says, write the inequality shown in the graph. So again, we are going to say y. This time it's greater than the line, right? All the y values that are bigger. So y is bigger than the equation that we have. And so I would say my slope goes up by 1 over by 3, up by 1 over by 3, and then I put the x there, and then my y-intercept was -1. Oh, what did I do wrong, you guys? I was just doing that to see if you guys are paying attention. Just kidding. So we have a dotted line right here, and so there shouldn't be that equal to underneath there. It should just be y is greater than 1/3 x minus 1. I told you guys, when I'm writing and talking, I'm not thinking that great. Okay, and then give an example of a solution. I'm going to pick this point right here, over 4 up by 3. So any point that you pick in the gray area will be an example of a solution. Okay, let's get started on your homework. So question number 1, it says, tell whether the ordered pair is a solution. Remember, it goes in alphabetical order. This is the x, this is the y. So I'm going to plug that one in there. That one's going to go right there, and I'm going to see if it's true. So 5 take away 2 is less than or equal to 0. 5 minus 2 is 3. Is 3 smaller than 0? No, that is not true. So that is not a solution. Okay, now we're going to plug in, again, here's x and y. This one's going to go in for x. This one's going to go in for y. So I have 8 times 1 plus 2 is greater than -6. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Is 10 bigger than -6? Yes, it is. Okay. Oh, you guys, I just want to do all the problems. I just love math so much. Sorry, you guys. That one you should have been able to do on your own. Sorry to take that away from you and rob you of that joy. Try number 3 on your own. This one just says, is it a solution? And hit pause and then check your answers. So you can always look at them first. Is 0, 0 a solution? Well, it's on that dotted line. If that were a solid line, it would be yes, but because it's on the dotted line, this one's going to be no. Okay, -1, 3. So I'm going to go -1 and then 1, 2, 3. That one would be yes, because it's in the shaded region. The shaded region represents all of our solutions. Okay, question number 4. You guys are going to do on your own, but remember an x equals is a vertical line, and then if x is less than -3, less is to the left when we're talking about x's, okay? Question number 5. I'm going to start by taking where I begin at -1, right? This is where we begin. And then I'm going to put my slope so that it's two numbers. It's positive. So I go up by 1, 2, 3, and then over by 1. 1, 2, 3, over by 1. I could do the same thing backwards, down by 3 and backwards by 1. Man, you guys, I need an eraser. Okay, so this just says strictly greater than, it's not equal to, so this should be a dotted line going through there, a dashed line. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, and then it says y is greater than, so greater than, if this is the y value and I want all the y values that are greater than, it would be in this direction. Okay, so that should be a dotted line and should be shaded up. Okay, question number 6. You guys are going to do on your own, but remember, you're going to start it out with a cover-up method, and you could just write 2x equals -4 and solve it, and then you can do that and go -y equals -4 and solve it. Neither one of those is solved yet. Plot the points, connect the dots with a dotted line, plug in 0, 0, see if it works. Is 0 less than -4? No, it's not, so it should be going away from 0, 0. Okay. Question number 7, it says write an inequality that represents the graph. So we have y, it's going up, so it's all the values of y that are greater than the line, not equal to because it's a dotted line or dashed line. So y is greater than, my slope is up by 1 over by 2, with the x, and then my y-intercept, that here's 0, so 1, 2, so +2. So that's an inequality that represents the graph. Question number 8, you guys are going to do on your own, but remember that whatever you begin with goes at the end. And then if you look at any two dots where it goes through evenly, you can find your slope. Like this one goes down by 1 over by 2. Okay, you guys work on that one on your own. Try your best. Do not skip it. Try it. And it's okay if you get it wrong, but do your best. Okay, question number 9 says match each inequality with its graph. Okay, so all of these look like the same line, but some of them are shaded up, some of them are shaded down, some of them have dots, some of them are solid. Okay, so I know this one has to be a solid line, and this one has to be a solid line. I know that this one is going to be dotted, just write dots, and this one is going to be dots. Right? Because it doesn't have the equal to. All right, and then I'm going to try plugging in 0, 0. So if I multiply by 0 and then subtract zeros, I still get 0. Is 0 smaller than 6? Is that true? Yes, that's true. So this one does have the point 0, 0 as one of the solutions. So a solid line that shades in the direction of 0, 0. So I'm going to say, and this is kind of confusing with big A's and little C's and whatever. So I'm going to say little a goes with big C. So I'm going to write a little a next to big C. Or maybe I'll write a big C next to little a, just so that I can't remember how it's set up in Canvas, but hopefully you guys will figure it out. Okay, and then for this one right here, we can try putting in zeros. So 0 minus 0, I just wrote it over because 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. Is 0 bigger than 6? It is not. Okay, so 0, 0 is not included in the solution. So I'm looking for a dotted line that shades away from 0, 0. Here's 0, 0, and we shade away from it. Okay, so it'd be D. So this one right here is big letter D, and I'm going to put little baby letter C next to it. All right. We're almost done. All right, letter B over here, if I plug in 0, 0, 0 minus 0 is 0 smaller than 6? Yes, it is. So 0, 0 is included. So I'm looking for a dotted one that does have it included. So that would be letter A. So I'm going to put a baby B, and I'm going to put a capital A next to that one. And then letter D would have to be this last one. We'll just make sure it's solid. 0 is greater than 6. That is not true. So I know it has to go the opposite direction from 0, 0. So this would be correct, letter D and capital B. that is it for your 5.3 notes. I hope you guys have a great week.